Mr. Cruz is well known for his conservatism, and he is even some describe as the Tea Party member in a way. And he's, of course, a pragmatist, very practical politician. He knows how he can make his mark.
Sure.
The question is, will he, with the record of shutting down the federal government for 15 days back in the year 2013, be able to win the hearts and minds of the American voters? If not, why is he here? Is he preparing for 4 years from now?
Well, I think yesterday, and with I think number one, with the senator's actions a couple years ago, and then two, with his announcement yesterday, he was speaking to a very specific section of not only America, but of the Republican Party. He said, imagine the day when evangelicals would come out to vote 100% or come out to vote en masse and would vote their values. He was speaking to a very specific section, I think, of the American electorate. And to those folks, what Ted Cruz did, what Senator Cruz did back a couple years ago in terms of the budget, and what he has continued to do in terms of his recalcitrance at times and in terms of his new ideas in the U.S. Senate, they're all for that. So they're supportive of it. And so I think if you are Senator Ted Cruz and you're running for president, you have to shore up that base first before you can then, kind of move out and start to appeal to a more mass market.
Right, certainly a lot of strategies going on there. While you were speaking, Mr. Andrews, I saw that Ms. Setzer raised her eyebrows several times, several times. So may I ask you to respond, first of all, and secondly, when are we going to see the real fight, for example, when Hillary Clinton comes out and say, I'm going to run for president possibly next month, and when is Jeb Bush going to come out? What is that going to be like?
Right. So I absolutely agree with Brandon that what Ted Cruz was doing yesterday was appealing to a very narrow segment of the base. And that is his problem, is that he is appealing to the most extreme, the most purist segment of the Republican Party and the Republican base. I don't believe that he can appeal even to the majority of Republican primary voters, let alone is he ever going to get the votes of, say, independents or Democrats, because Ted Cruz sort of represents everything that Democrats hate about Republican policies that are being espoused in Congress right now, and certainly the things that are coming out of the mouths of Republican presidential candidates. He is not in any way a crossover candidate. If you are a Democrat, you're not going to vote for Ted Cruz. So that is his problem. In terms of when, in terms of when the sparks are going to fly and when we're going to see both Jeb and Hillary Clinton announce, they've both indicated that that's going to happen sometime later next month, later in April. And I think that's appropriate because they can't announce too early. For the reasons that we mentioned, you don't really need to do that if you're a first-year candidate. However, they also can't announce too late, because the truth is that there's a lot of things that can't happen until you have officially announced their bid. There's a number of people sort of right now on both Jeb's quote campaign and Hillary's as well, who are ready to work but can't officially be on the payroll yet. And then you see things like last month when she was being attacked for her emails at the State Department. They didn't have an operation really fully ready to go in place in order to defend her.
Right,
and that's
the timing is always very important. You want to be the early bird, or you want to come right at the right time. Let me come back to you, Mr. Liu. You've been listening to our American panelists from two sides talking about a very exciting election season. As a former correspondent in Washington, D.C., I'm excited about this as well. But I remember very well, one of the angles we do story then was actually about why people outside the United States should care about that election. In other words, whether one president would make that much difference on the U.S. internal politics and also the international relations. What do you think Jeb Bush, since we didn't necessarily going to see a lot of support for Mr. Cruz, forgive me to saying that, But what do you think about Mr. Jeb Bush and also Ms. Clinton? If they two are really running for the presidency, are they really likely to make a difference in the current policies?
As the American politics watcher since 1980s, I can feel very certain U.S. voters are very likely to get the convergence of interest and opinions with regard to their policies towards a certain country, towards the international issues. Currently, the Democratic president is in charge of the White House. With or without the Democratic future president, the foreign policy of the United States will pretty much remain the same, provided they are in line with the U.S. interests. U.S. government and the U.S. president usually is serving the U.S. interest. Yeah.
But you know, that's for sure, because it's the economy is stupid, isn't it? That President Clinton once said famously. And therefore, let me go to Mrs. Setter. It's about the economy, even now. So does Ms. Clinton, if she's running, have a good record in that regard? Because mainly she's been being the first lady, and she's also been a senator, but never been a governor in terms of take charge of the budget of a state and work on those financial issues. And therefore, is that her shortcoming, do you think, compared to Jeb Bush if he is running?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think that Hillary Clinton benefits, whether you think fairly or not, but I think she benefits from the fact that even more so than people remembering her from being Secretary of State, they remember her from being the First Lady during the 1990s, and of that being a very, very good time for the economy. So, again, whether you like the Clintons or not, it's impossible to deny that that was a time of really positive economic achievements for the United States. And so I believe that she does, in fact, benefit from that. Whether or not she's more had a record of an executive, I think people do believe that. I don't think anyone really questions whether or not Hillary Clinton can be an executive. That's never been the knock against her.
All right, let me go to Mr. Andrews. Only fair that I'd like you to jump in at the moment. What do you think? And also, does Governor Bush really have much record in terms of dealing with the U.S. role internationally, even though he's coming from a famous family?
Well, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out, because I do believe that you highlighted two shortcomings for both candidates. And if you look at the Republican Party field for 2016 and you ask yourself, is there anyone that can stand up to Hillary Clinton's foreign policy chops? And there's just not. And you have to respect the former Secretary of State's experience there. However, in terms of economic policy, in terms of domestic policy, Hillary Clinton does not have the same record as a Jeb Bush, or perhaps even the same record as some of the senators that may be running, because she was in the Senate for a few years from New York. However, there are a few other senators, there are a few other governors that are running with very strong cases to make for being able to balance budgets in their states, to be able to provide for more economic opportunity in their states, and to be able to balance that with beginning to reach out internationally. You've seen Scott Walker, you've seen Chris Christie, you've seen even Marco Rubio, who serves on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee and has for a few years. You've seen these folks make trips over to the UK and make these start to do these foreign tours to kind of build up their foreign policy chops. And they're never going to be able to get to where Hillary Clinton is. However,
didn't go very well when they tried that.
You have to begin to balance it out and to make an argument.